And thank you for joining, colleagues. This is part of the Plant Health Initiative Gender and Plant Health online seminar series. My name is Alejandro Ortega Beltran. I'm a plant pathologist with IITA, and I lead the work package on mycotoxin management under plant health. I work very closely with Natalia. Dr. Natalia Palacios is a maize quality specialist with CIMIT, based in Mexico, headquarters of CIMIT, and she will be talking about dialogues with farming families and exploring women's role in preventing mycotoxin exposure in Mexico. So it will be some time for presentation and then some time for interaction and questions. So over to you, Natalia. Looking forward to hear from you and what your group has been doing for reducing mycotoxin exposure in several Mexican communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Alejandro, for the introduction, and thanks everyone for being here. I know it's really early in Mexico, and it's also early in general in Latin America. So thanks for joining. And well, as mentioned before, this is going to be really just a dialogue with all of you. I mean, this is the first approach we have taken in order to work more with the gender focus, and it's a work that has started actually after the training that we had here in Mexico around March, April this year, and just taking some small resources that we have, we decided to conduct a preliminary studies, but I think the information is good enough to actually create a case for further work on this on the gender direction for the mycotoxin mitigation in Mexico. So let me just start, well, first I have to say that this is just a collection of the work that we have been doing with Carlos Muñoz, who is a PhD student from Colegio de Postgraduados. Alejandra Ramírez is also a professor at Colegio de Postgraduados. And Erika de Luna Seguro is a student from Chapingo University. So this is a small group that we have take advantage of the several activities that we already have in the field. But this is a large, I mean, we are just part of a large group actually being very strong collaboration with Colegio de Postgraduados and SADER here in Mexico. And I also would like to thank one of our colleagues of the gender group in at CIMIT here in Mexico, Odette, who has shared with me some of the slides. So let me just start with talking about the aflatoxin problem in Mexico. So actually, since 2018, we have started a more constant monitoring of the aflatoxin content in the grain, as I mean, the main source of aflatoxins in the country, and yeah, depending on the state or the area, the region in the country, we can have very high levels, I mean, much more higher than the limit amount that, as we know, is 20 parts per billion. So especially in states like Campeche, Tamaulipas, Oaxaca, and Veracruz, we have found very high levels of aflatoxin in the grain. So the first activities that we started to conduct in order to mitigate this problem was combining several actions at the field level. So we were using adapted varieties, maize adapted varieties, combined with biological control, the AF36 that has been proven very successful, and especially very successful AflaSafe work that has been conducted in Africa. And we also combine these activities with the agronomical management, especially trying to pay attention on the sowing dates that farmers were conducting, especially because it was all over the place, you know. and the temperatures towards the filling of the ears were really high and humid, so it was the perfect conditions for the aspergillus to start growing in the maize and later on developing the aflatoxin. So the combination of these three technologies actually led us to reduce at the field level the aflatoxin concentration in two of the states where we were working, mainly Tamaulipas and Campeche. I have to say that most of this work was conducted with the collaboration of medium to large farmers, but in parallel, we were trying to do some work also at the small scale. With the smallest scale farmers. This preliminary work actually was done with the support of Gruma, one of the biggest companies, maize processing companies in Mexico. But you know, the problem is not only at the kernel level, let's say, but aflatoxin has been also found.
Natalia,
yes.
I'm sorry. Please, the slide is not moving.
Ah, sorry. Wait a second. Oh. Okay, now it's okay?
Now it's okay. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. So yeah, the problem of aflatoxin contamination has not only been at the kernel level, but actually those kernels are entering into the market, and there are several reports of finding aflatoxins in maize products. And well, the latest reports are actually from 2020, where people have found mycotoxins, aflatoxins in tortillas. So what we have been doing as well is actually monitoring the aflatoxin contamination in tortillas, and again, we have very high levels in some samples, especially from Campeche and Veracruz. Additionally, there have been some reports of clinical cases where they have found aflatoxin levels in several samples, tissue samples from patients from rural areas, people that has been diagnosed with hepatitis B, C, or alcoholic cirrhosis. Also, some women with cervical cancer, breastfeeding mothers, and recently, actually, they have found a high prevalence of aflatoxin B1 in a rural population of Chiapas. So we know that the problem for, the way to mitigate aflatoxin is not only in the field, but it has to go from the field to the consumption all over the way, including actually the drying, the sorting of the kernels, and of course the storage, because it's during the storage where aflatoxin contamination can increase further. So actually, when we were doing part of this work, what we have observed is the presence of women, but some of their presence, it was really under low profile. So that's why after the conversations with Nozomi and work with the gender group here in at CIMMYT, we decided, okay, we should pay more attention of the role that woman is playing on towards the mitigation of aflatoxin contamination. So just to give you a little bit of background in terms of the gender work, actually, this is a report from 10 years ago, but the situation hasn't changed that much. Unfortunately, most of the gender work in agriculture has been focused on Africa, especially Eastern and Southern Africa. and a little bit of work in South Asia, and less in Southeast Asia. And in Latin America, we are like about 10% of the studies have been done in Latin America. So it's not that much, thinking that, taking in account that Latin America is really a large area, agricultural producing area. So, and as we know, well, focus groups are a qualitative research method to gather insights and perspectives from specific populations. So we can identify roles, challenges, and needs of different gender groups doing this methodology. And well, some of you that are here, you know more about that. I'm just talking from the biophysical perspective, so I didn't know much about the focus groups. So again, just to give you a perspective of how is the role of women in agriculture in Latin America, well, actually the woman participation has increased towards the year. If you see the blue columns, is actually the participation of women in agriculture, and it's much less compared to the men, but still it has increased towards the years. Actually, this is a graph from, it's a gathering of reports from different countries on the time spent on unpaid work by sex, by gender. And as you can see from Mexico, the numbers are not very recent, but still women actually spend more time, more than 10 hours extra in unpaid work compared to men. And actually the reports also says that about 95% of the time, a little bit more of the time of the woman is actually dedicated to domestic work in Latin America, and other parties caring children and elders, and some activities in the community and towards the preparation of food. So the situation of women in agriculture and in the field is not, first, is not very well documented, I would say, and or actually there is a lot of opportunity to know much more about that. And second, well, in the case of Mexico, there is no much information available depending on the states. And we have to take in account all the difference, especially in cultural and practices, community practices that people have in the different states. So, well, just taking that in account, we just started, as I said, in July, we said, okay, let's try to do some of the activities that we already plan within PHI for the mycotoxin mitigation in Mexico, and just put a little bit of gender focus. And we wanted to understand how gender roles and the relations influence the handling, the storage, and the processing of maize. So actually taking from the harvesting until the processing, so the shelling, the drying of the kernels, the shelling, then looking at how the storage was done, and how the maize was transformed at the household level. So we wanted to see what was the role of women and men in these activities. So we just did a combination actually of two approaches. One was focus group discussions, and we also apply some surveys. And we did it in Veracruz and Campeche. And here I'm just going to talk about the preliminary data that we have. We are still collecting data from Campeche, and we are still missing some interactions in other regions of Veracruz, but we have to wait until the kernels are being harvested this cycle. But nevertheless, in the case of Veracruz, you can see we had around 46% participation of women, while in Campeche, even we call specifically for women and we try to adapt as much as possible all the logistic to encourage the woman participation, we only have 7% participation of women. The average age was 56, 60 in both cases. And one interesting thing that is important to take in account is actually the marital status. Some of them were widow, well, actually it is widows, or they are single mothers, or they are just alone taking the lead of the household, especially because of immigration, and few of them were single. So in the case of Veracruz, we have been working in the whole state, and as I mentioned, these are just the results of the central part of Veracruz. Hopefully by January, we are going to conduct the same type of, improve studies in the north and the southern part of Veracruz to have a better idea of the dynamics in this state. So we conducted, as mentioned, a focus group and the survey. And when we look at the men's perception on the involvement of women and men in the decision of the different activities, so for the case of the harvesting, the shelling, the drying and the shelling, as well as the storage conditions, the men think that it's actually a shared decision. So sometimes it's the woman, sometimes it's the men that are taking the decision when and how to do these activities. And they also mentioned that it's a woman decision when to store, and all the work in terms of grain transformation. So all the cooking is being done by the woman. These are the men's perception in terms of the decisions. And regarding the woman perception in terms of the decision for to conduct these activities is actually a little bit different. The women think that the men are the ones to decide when to harvest the crop in the field, and it's a shared decision where and how to dry the kernels, when to shell them, and after that, women actually take the lead on the decisions for storage, when and how to store, and all the grain transformation. So this is in terms of the decision. But if we look at who actually conduct the work, the response differ a little bit between men and women responses. So actually, the men think that they are more involved in many of the activities, or is actually a shared activity. But what is clear is in terms of the storage and actually the processing, the woman take a very important role. So if you can see the blue areas is actually where 100% of the women conduct the activity, and men and women think that yes, they are actually doing more of those activities of storage. And in the case of the nixtamalization, although the man says that they may be involved sometimes, the woman says that not, they are actually having all responsibility in terms of the grain transformation, that in Mexico is mainly based on this alkali transformation using this process that is called nixtamalization, where they use calcium hydroxide to cook the maize. And yeah, in the case of Veracruz, the woman said no, they are the only ones doing this work. If we look at the data of Campeche, as mentioned, we only had 7% participation of women in the workshop, so it was very disappointed. As I said, we use the same mechanism that we use in Veracruz in order to call the people, in order to conduct the trainings. but actually it didn't work. I mean, it was very difficult to see a woman participating in these workshops. The workshops were conducted around 10:30 in the morning, so we wanted to avoid this hour where the ladies have to take care of the food in the morning to take the kids to the school, or to go at midday in order to pick the kids from the school. So that schedule worked very well in Veracruz, but it didn't work in Campeche. Also, we use the same technical support from actually the extensionist system from the government, in both in Veracruz and Campeche. And in the case of Veracruz, we have more woman technical assistant with this calling, but in Campeche we also have some women, and in none of the areas we have the participation. I mean, great participation of women. So, well, the responses, of course, were given by the men, and in terms of the work, they said that they are doing most of the harvesting. They are conducting a little bit of the grain transformation, the cooking, and they play a shared role in the grain drying and storage. So when we saw that, we thought, okay, maybe let's try to get in touch with other women, and we actually discuss further with the small number of women participants in the workshops, and they were just mentioned that they don't have time to go to these type of workshops. As I was mentioning, in the case of Campeche, we only have the responses of the men. And the main activities that they said they conduct is actually the harvesting, and they participate half and a half. Is a shared activity in terms of grain shelling, grain drying, and storage, and very, very small participation in the grain transformation. So we also took the advantage of visiting. Actually, we were going to see several of the families in Campeche, and we also talked with the women that were participating in the workshop, and wondering why they were not be able to, I mean, more women be able to join the workshop. And actually, in general, what they commented, they mentioned, is that the women prefer to be visited at home due to their heavy workload with household chores that they have. So they actually, it was a lady that was saying, I really appreciate the religious people that come to my home and tell me about that and involve me about the change of the religion. So I'm not going to change my religion, but I really like when they come to my home, because I can pay attention. I cannot go out. It was one of the expressions of one of the ladies there. They said that they dedicate most of their time to care children and elder people, and also care of the animals. They have a lot of household, I mean, house animals there, chickens, pigs, etc. So they are the ones in charge of taking care of those animals, and they have to spend a lot of time cooking and cleaning and organizing the house. And they said that in order to rest, they spend most of the time just sewing. They really make very nice clothes that are typical from this region. So regarding the maize-related task, they share that they cook meals for when family members returns from the field. So sometimes they also go to the field and help during the harvest. But their main role is to have food ready for their husbands when they come back from the field. They assist with shelling maize and removing damaged grain. The damaged grain maize is sometimes discarded, but other time it is fed to their animals. Women are in charge of managing the maize supply. So they tell the husband when they are getting low in maize, and they actually tell the husband when they have to buy maize or they have to sell it. They prefer to store maize in a location that is easy to access when they prepare the maize for the cooking. So they don't like these big containers where they cannot access because it's too high or is very difficult to open. And they also prefer not to use chemicals on the maize when they store, because they don't like the taste and the texture when they are cooking. But if they know that if they don't use the chemicals, the maize get spoiled. So they actually prefer very much the vacuum, the vacuum bags. And actually one of them expressed that they had a small metal silo, and she's very happy because it's very easy to access. So these are just observations, I mean, very limited, of course, and it's something that we would like to explore further, hopefully with further support, financial support in the coming years. But one of the things that is important to take in account that is actually very few states in Mexico, the woman participation is actually recognized. So Veracruz is one of those ones where we have around 7% of the women being involved in agriculture. And one of the reasons also is that in Veracruz, there is a large, especially in some specific towns, they are recognized because people, the men migrate to US in order to get different sources of funding. So women have to take care of the field, and that's why the woman participation is being more recognized in those states. It's exactly the same as in Puebla, for instance. It's another state where a lot of people migrate to other countries. In the case of Campeche, the migration rate is lower, and as observed, there is a low participation of women in the field activities, but they play a very important role once the maize reach home. So just as a reflection, I would say this type of methodology is very good because it facilitates the exploration of complex and sensitive topics. So it was very easy to talk with women and men separately and actually observe the difference in the responses. It is a very dynamic interaction. Once a woman starts talking, then the others start. While when they are together, sometimes the women are more shy to express their comments and ideas. And it also allows a very cultural contextualization, so we can really deep into the norms and social norms that they have in the community. However, well, it can be a group, there can be a group bias, especially when you find someone that is leading the discussion. So actually, we really need a very good facilitators in order to avoid these dominant opinions. I have to say that logistically, it can be very challenging, especially when we really want the participation of all people from the community, you know? So it is not matter of just going couple of days and organize things, but it's matter of being on the ground, getting to know, and I think you get more information if you take it more like as a sort of ethnographic sort of work, that you spend time with the people, help them on the activities, get really involved, and then you can gain more knowledge about their interactions. And yeah, as we realized in the Campeche activities, it was very limited representativeness, and it was just due to the cultural dynamics that they already have, and we have to just keep improving how we improve or get better interactions with the community. Nevertheless, in terms of the mitigation of aflatoxins activities is very important to involve women, and if they don't come to us, we should go to them. So actually it could be more expensive, more time consuming, and more resource consuming, because we have to go to the houses or try to see how can we involve better the woman on this in order to have their voices heard. One of the things that we also realized, and actually it was a workshop conducted very recently in a neighbor state of Campeche, in Yucatan, in Quintana Roo, sorry. The authorities in that workshop, they were amazed of how many women were participating, not only in terms of the participants itself, but in terms of the people that were delivering the workshops. So, and I have to say that we were not many women, but it seems that yes, is not common, and even the people realize that having, I would say, 20% woman participation, it was a wow, it was a hit. And so that means that we still have to do a lot, and think about which activities women can play a better role, and try to find the best ways to get them involved. So this is all I wanted to share. I know it's not I mean, we are missing a lot of data, but it was just the beginning, and trying to actually realize and give visibility of the importance of getting a woman involved, and go beyond of just the numbers, you know, that we have been counting how many women, how many men, but sometimes they are present, but they are not heard. So with this, I just want to thank Nozomi to help us to get involved into this type of work, and yeah, looking forward to really start working more in deep with this gender lens. Thank you.